You keep feeling restless. The routines that once fit now feel tight, foreign. Your energy shifts in strange, unexplained waves. Something's off, but you can't name it. Yet, what if this confusion is exactly what you need? Most people overlook the universe's quietest nudges. The real signs of transformation are almost invisible, unless you know what to look for. There is a moment in every life, sometimes more than once, where the familiar rhythms lose their meaning. You wake up, move through routines, speak to the same people, and yet every gesture feels hollow, as if you are performing a role for an invisible audience. It is not depression. It is not boredom. It is something deeper and more unsettling, a kind of psychic turbulence beneath the calm surface of your days. You become hyper-aware of small changes, the way conversations feel just a shade off, the way old ambitions no longer light you up. There are more questions than answers, and even the answers you do find sound thin in your own mind. There is a name for this. In Jungian psychology, it is the threshold of transformation, the crossing point between the known and the possible. The threshold is not signed with banners or flashing lights. It is marked by the sense that something in you has already begun to move, even if nothing outside has shifted. But the modern world is built to erase these signals. We fill every silence with noise. We scroll past discomfort, eager for distraction. We medicate uncertainty with plans, lists, and endless notifications. In this way, we become blind to the subtle ways the universe begins to prepare us for change. You may have heard these moments described as a dark night of the soul. But darkness is not always suffering. Sometimes it is simply the absence of old stories, making room for the new. You may find yourself asking, is this transition? Or am I just drifting? Is some larger pattern trying to pull me forward, or am I inventing meaning where there is none? The tension is sharp. You worry about making the wrong move, missing the signal, or wasting precious time. You search for answers in books, in late-night conversations, in every opinion except the one that whispers from inside. Yet the strangest thing happens. The more you search, the more you miss the message waiting just under your skin. Existential thinkers called this the anxiety of becoming. Kierkegaard wrote that when you stand on the edge of possibility, you will always feel the world begin to blur. Jung called it individuation, the slow, painful emergence of your true self from the husk of your old identity. The universe is never in a rush. It strips away layer by layer, not to punish you, but to clear the space for something larger. The reason this feeling gnaws at you is that it is not meant to be comfortable. It is the friction of transformation sharpening you for what comes next. But here is what almost no one tells you about this process. The mechanism is not random. There is a structure behind every shift, even if you cannot see it yet. Ancient wisdom traditions spoke of rites of passage. Every culture has its own version: the trial, the exile, the apprenticeship, the wilderness. Modern psychology has a different language, but the pattern is the same: discomfort, alienation, a sense that no old tool will fit the new lock you are facing. The universe begins to close doors. The familiar rewards dry up. The paths that once carried you easily now seem overgrown, blocked, or strangely distant. This is not punishment. It is the engine of evolution, pruning away what cannot go where you are meant to go. Your greatest pain in these moments is the sense that you are alone, that no one else can see how close the fabric of your old life is to unraveling. But the truth is, Every person who ever became something more walked this road. They were shaped by silence, by longing, by the invisible hand that pushed until they either surrendered or broke. The signs are subtle. Some are so quiet you almost miss them. But if you pay attention, they are always there. The reason this happens goes deeper than most people realize. Discomfort is not a flaw in the system. It is the system. You are wired biologically and psychologically to avoid pain, confusion, and uncertainty. Your mind clings to the familiar because the familiar is safe, but growth requires risk. It demands that you step into unknown territory while your instincts are screaming for shelter. Jungian psychology would say, your old self is dying. But your culture will give you every excuse to remain exactly as you are. Society reveres comfort and routine. It sells you stories of stability, even as real change is always born in chaos. History is full of figures who faced this silent crucible. Siddhartha under the Bodhi tree, Viktor Frankl in the camps. Even innovators in science and art describe moments where their world seemed to shrink just before it exploded into something larger. The pain you feel is a sign that something in you is no longer willing to settle. It is the universe's way of waking you from comfortable sleep. Every time you feel lost, unmoored, or quietly desperate, that is not failure. It is the raw material of transformation. Leave a comment. Which silent sign have you recognized in your own life? The sudden loss of old joys, the growing urge to change, or the uncanny feeling that something bigger is coming? Write it below. You do not need to have it solved. Just name it. Subscribe if you want to go deeper. The next part is why it matters. You wake up, and the things that once thrilled you now feel empty. Hobbies, relationships, routines, all seem drained of color. You find yourself going through the motions, hoping the spark will return, but deep down you sense it is gone for good. This is not decay, but preparation. The universe often closes doors by draining the joy from what once sustained you. It is a gentle way of pushing you forward before you are ready to leap. People begin to drift away. Invitations dry up. The circle that once defined you shrinks, sometimes to nothing. At first, you fight this isolation. You wonder if something is wrong with you. But then, in the silence, a different question arises. Who am I when nobody is watching? This is the cocoon phase. The world is stripping away external validation so you can discover where your worth actually comes from. You try to repeat the old ways, but nothing fits. Efforts that used to work now fail. Skills that gave you confidence produce only frustration. Even your body can feel different. Sleep, appetite, energy, all in flux. This is not regression. It is the universe refusing to let you keep living inside a pattern that no longer serves your growth. You feel pulled by a longing you cannot name. It might show up as restlessness, sudden tears, or the ache to go somewhere you have never been. You sense a calling, but have no words for its purpose. The longing is not for what you have lost, but for what you do not yet know. Small coincidences begin to cluster. You think of someone and they call. A book appears at just the right time. A stranger's words answer the question you have been afraid to ask. These are not just accidents. In Jungian terms, these synchronicities are signals from the objective psyche, reminders that your process is not random, but meaningful. As you move closer to real change, the negative voices grow louder. Doubt, fear, self-sabotage, they all surge, making you question everything. This is the mind's last-ditch effort to keep you inside the comfort zone. But the resistance itself is proof that you are close to breakthrough. One day you wake up and feel something different. You look at a fear that once dictated your every move, and for no obvious reason, it feels smaller, almost trivial. You are not fearless, but you know the fear cannot stop you anymore. This is the universe's final permission. The moment the cocoon cracks, and you remember that transformation was not about safety, but readiness. And once you see how deeply this runs, the question becomes what to do about it. Across every spiritual and psychological tradition, there is the same instruction. Transformation is a map, but no one can walk it for you. Most people think they must wait for a sign so obvious it can never be missed. But the universe rarely speaks that way. Its language is subtle, patterned, and personal. Jung wrote of the archetype of the journey, the crossing from old world to new, not with fanfare, but with silent shifts. The core insight is this: your readiness is not measured by confidence, but by willingness. Everyone waits for the feeling of certainty before they begin, but certainty is a mirage. It only appears in the rearview mirror once you have already stepped. Most people believe transformation is a matter of fate, that if the universe wants you to change, it will lift you up and carry you, effortless and safe, across the gap. But in reality, the universe is a ruthless teacher. It gives you signs, challenges, and discomfort, and waits to see what you will do with them. The most critical misunderstanding is this: you are not waiting for a green light from outside. The universe is waiting for you to say yes, despite the red lights inside. Most people never cross. They wait for certainty, and in that waiting, life passes them by. The transformation does not come in one thunderclap moment. It is built through tiny, almost invisible decisions. The choice to stand tall when everything in you wants to shrink. The choice to stay present in discomfort rather than reach for distraction. Each small act carves out a new shape inside you, one that is fit to carry the greater life now forming in the shadows. This is where the core framework comes into sharp focus. Jung called this individuation, the process of becoming not what others have shaped you to be, but what you are capable of becoming. The Stoics called it the discipline of ascent, the art of choosing what to let in and what to refuse. Across traditions, the lesson is the same. Growth is not about gaining more, but shedding what no longer fits. There are 3 pillars to this process. The first is recognition, the willingness to see yourself as you actually are, without judgment or denial. The second is surrender, not giving up, but letting go of the need to control timing or outcomes, trusting that the universe does not prepare you for nothing. And the third is consistent movement, however small. Every day, you become either more aligned with your truth or more entrenched in your old pattern. Most people believe in quantum leaps, that there will be a single transforming event. But the universe's way is accumulation, micro movements, daily practices, the gradual build of inner power until one day you realize you cannot go back. And once you see this clearly, truly clearly, something shifts. This is not punishment, it is initiation. Every discomfort you feel, every closed door, every restless longing, it is all preparation. Your breakdowns are not dead ends, but the universe's invitation to rewrite your story. If this reframe has shifted something in you, a like puts it in front of someone else who needs it right now. You are not behind. You are not lost. You are being shaped. The question is no longer whether you can change. The question is whether you are willing to begin. Begin with 15 minutes each day in conscious solitude. No phone, no music, no outside stimulation. Sit in silence, noticing which thoughts clamor for your attention and which voices quietly suggest a new direction. You do not need to solve anything, only bear witness to what surfaces. This is ancient technology, the deliberate cultivation of inner stillness. Every tradition from Buddhism to Stoicism recommends it because it works. With practice, discomfort becomes information rather than pain. At the end of each day, write down a single thing you are ready to release. It might be an old habit, a worn-out belief, or an expectation that keeps you circling the same ground. You do not have to know how to let it go. The act of naming it is the beginning. Over time, the list shows you just how many things you are carrying that no longer serve the person you are becoming. Every day, take one action that feels just past your comfort zone. It does not have to be dramatic. A hard conversation, a bold choice at work, even stating your needs aloud. Each act is a message to the universe. I am willing. Over weeks, these acts build a new self-structure, one that can receive more, risk more, and survive the turbulence that precedes arrival. This is not easy, but it is possible. As each practice deepens, you begin to sense what the early signs meant. You realize the feeling you could not name was your first invitation to become. Everything begins in silence. The universe does not send messengers in thunder or lightning, but in the softest shifts of your attention and the smallest cracks in your routine. What you once mistook for loss was, in truth, a clearing. The world is full of people swept along by the current, waiting for a sign. But the ones who find it and answer are those who have learned to listen to the quiet. You were never just waiting, you were in training. The arc closes, not with a sudden blaze, but with the slow realization that you are, at last, ready to claim the greater life that has been calling you all along. You are worthy of what is next. The universe does not waste its signals. If you have made it this far, it is because you are meant to hear this. Your preparation was not a detour. It was the curriculum. Carry this truth. The signs are real, even when they are silent. Your job is not to demand certainty, but to answer with your willingness. There is an art to living that has nothing to do with grand gestures or dramatic announcements. It is the art of attunement, the subtle, daily practice of sensing where the current of your life is quietly shifting. You move through your days, you make choices. But beneath those choices, another layer hums, one you rarely acknowledge. A tension, a longing, a series of odd coincidences that whisper, not scream. Most people miss this layer. They are too busy searching for what is loud. But you are learning to hear the quiet. To live in tune is to let yourself notice the odd impulse to change your path on a walk. The invitation to pause just before you would have missed someone. The discomfort that lingers after a conversation like a pebble in your shoe. These are not accidents. They are signals from the world, inviting you to participate in a story larger than your own. Everything you have experienced, especially what did not go according to your plan, has been part of a curriculum. Not one you chose, but one assigned. Invisible teachers appear in the form of obstacles, rejections, the sudden loss of what you thought you needed. The lessons arrive wrapped in discomfort, but their aim is not to punish. It is to prepare. You may not always understand why a chapter is closing, why a path is blocked, or why certain doors refuse to open no matter how hard you knock. Yet later, sometimes, much later, the pattern reveals itself. The delay was refinement. The loss was protection. The silence was an invitation to listen deeper. No preparation is wasted if you let it teach you. Growth never feels good in the moment. It is confusion, restlessness, maybe even pain in places you once felt comfort. You try to move forward, but the old ways falter. Friendships change shape. The work that once satisfied dries up. The dreams you clung to lose their hold. This is the sign that the universe trusts you with more. It is not withdrawal, it is expansion. You are being stretched because what is coming requires a greater version of you. What you call discomfort is often the old self struggling to survive the birth of a new self. If you can make it through, if you choose not to turn back, the discomfort transforms into clarity. You have been prepared, perhaps unknowingly, for something greater. The invitation is not always clear. Sometimes it arrives as a crisis, sometimes as an emptiness you cannot explain. To answer the call is not to know the outcome, but to say yes while it is still dark. It is to move one step at a time towards something you cannot yet name, trusting that the act of movement will reveal more at every stage. This is the point where most turn away. They want a guarantee. But the universe rewards the one who acts before certainty arrives. The moment you commit, the universe seems to send new resources, new people, even new strengths you did not know you possessed. Risk is required, but so is trust. There is a turning point, a quiet, almost undramatic moment when you stop waiting for proof and begin living as if the new reality is already yours. Everything changes after that, not because the world shifts overnight, but because your posture does. You step differently. You speak with a new cadence. Doubt does not disappear, but it loses its grip. You become the kind of person who moves before the path is fully lit. This is not recklessness. It is faith, rooted in the pattern you have started to recognize. Each setback, every delay, each inexplicable urge was the universe's way of carving out a vessel strong enough to hold what is coming. The world responds, not to your need, but to your readiness. Not everyone receives this kind of preparation. Fewer still recognize it as a gift. You are being trusted with more, and this is always accompanied by the discomfort of becoming. The universe seeks not the most qualified, but the most willing. Willing to be emptied, willing to be reshaped, willing to welcome what is unfamiliar. You may not feel ready. That is not the standard. The only standard is openness, your willingness to respond to what you cannot explain. The universe does not force. It extends an invitation quietly, persistently, until you finally say yes. There is one last silent sign that you are being prepared for something greater. You become a sign for someone else. Without realizing it, your decision to keep moving, to keep listening, becomes a quiet beacon for those who are lost in their own process. You model courage not by your perfection, but by your refusal to let confusion or delay stop you. Transformation is never private. Every act of courage, every risk you take, gives silent permission for others to do the same. You are not just being prepared for your own sake. You are being prepared to help guide others. The journey does not end here. There will be new silences, new discomforts, new invitations that are even subtler and quieter than before, but now you know how to listen. The voice that once sounded so faint is clearer. Each sign is easier to trust. What was once a mystery is now a familiar language. This is the never-ending invitation to answer the next call, and the next, and each call after that, for as long as you breathe. If you want to keep following the signs, subscribe. Each video is a new step on the path, a new way of tuning your life to something bigger. The universe does not wait, but it remembers those who answer. Your life is not random. Preparation is proof. The next invitation is already on its way. Thank you for being here. I will see you in the next one.